All right. I want to welcome Victoria Cannon to the podcast. And Victoria is one of my very favorite people. She has I think, a inspirational story to tell. And um, thank you so much for being here, Victoria.
Thank you for inviting me, Rick.
So we've got a lot to cover. And, part of the thing that we had talked about is you wanted to start at some background with your family and where you came from in Vietnam, and try to explain how that all went down for you.
Um, so my earliest memory is escaping from Vietnam and being separated from my birth mother. Um, and for many, many years, I didn't really know how much of that was reality versus what
And
was
how old were you?
um, probably four. Um, and so I came to the US with my birth father, and um, he was a severe drug addict and alcoholic. And um, I mean, she would leave me days, weeks at a time, unsupervised. And we would live in cars. We finally were um, able to rent a house next
What
to,
part of the country?
oh, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Also, Oklahoma.
There are not very many Asian people in Tulsa, Oklahoma back in the 80s.
So you were identifiable.
Very identifiable. Um, but he was very abusive. Um, this is a tough one. He was physically and sexually abusive. And dang it, Rick, this was not supposed to.
Take your time. This is
So it was tough. It was tough for me.
how old were you at this point?
I was still four and five.
So you have memories back that far.
Yeah, I mean yeah. Um, but he would leave, and it was just kind of me fending for myself. There were times that I didn't have electricity, I didn't have food, um, so I'd have to go find it. So I'd go across the street to the McDonald's and dig through the dumpster. Um, when I started school, I'd walk to school, and I remember there was an apple tree on my way to school, and I'd pick apples. Um, but I think the hardest thing was like just finally acknowledging like all of the abuse that I endured. Um, he would use me as collateral when he needed drugs. Um, and this went on for quite a while until I was adopted by my kindergarten teacher.
Wow.
She and her husband put a lot of time and effort into making sure that um, I was okay. I would go stay with them on the weekends um, because, they got the consent from my father. And one weekend when I was staying with them, he went to his girlfriend's place of work and shot her, and then shot himself. So he committed suicide and then
Oh my gosh.
Um, so after that, there was kind of a custody battle because my birth father had a sister that lived in the States, and she wanted custody of me because then she would benefit from whatever he had.
Right.
Uh, and so my kindergarten teacher and her husband fought for custody. But during this time, I had to stay in an orphanage because um, they had to decide, where I was going to go.
Wow.
And
This was a lot going on for a little kid.
there was a lot going on. Um, but the judge granted my parents custody, my adopted parents custody of me, and then they officially adopted me when I was 5. Um,
They kind of saved you.
they did. So fast forward, they started their family. Initially, my adopted mom had not wanted to have any children, but I had come along and had wanted a sister, and
Changed their mind.
changed their mind. And so I have a sweet, sweet little sister and an adorable little brother, and I love them so much. Um, but growing up in Oklahoma, it's not easy. And when I was 10, my adopted father took a job in this town. It was Miami, Oklahoma.
Emma.
Miami, Oklahoma, northeast corner of Oklahoma. And it was a culture shock for
Sounds like a metropolis, Miami.
sure. It was known for the Goodrich tire plant and a mushroom farm. And it was like you would drive through this town as fast as you could because depending on how the wind was blowing, you wanted to get out of there as fast as possible because the whole town smelled like manure.
Right.
There weren't any Asian people um, in my school that I moved to. Um, there was a lot of bullying. I don't think my parents ever realized how miserable my school years were um, because I just didn't really talk about it.
Right. And
I
were
was
were you a good student?
I flew under the radar. Was just enough to pass. Um, didn't like a lot of attention. Um, and yeah, I mean average grades just to eat by.
Okay.
And then I was when I was in high school, getting ready to start my freshman year of high school, we moved to another town. My dad took an assistant district attorney job and moved to an even smaller town.
Smaller than Miami.
Mhm.
Okay.
There were like 80 to 100 in my graduating class.
So everybody knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody.
Was it a better situation though for you moving to the new place?
No, because the kids that went to my high school had all grown up there and they were all related somehow. Like it was just, yeah, everybody knew everybody's history. And then you have this Vietnamese girl from a different town. His father is the assistant district attorney.
What? just being the district attorney's daughter is probably not your most favorable.
That was not good. And so I struggled. I struggled a lot. I didn't, I tried to fit in. I did my best to, you know, put myself out there just to, um, make things a little bit more bearable. Um, but, once again,
Well, I mean, you're such a nice person. The reality is the niceness had to come through a little bit. People like nice people.
uh, my husband will tell you that I'm very selective. If I like you, I like you. If I don't, then you're kind of fucked.
Oh, okay, I see. All right. Well, I think I feel privileged.
But I've always been a very closed person. Like, I mean, as you can see, like, I don't really trust people.
Well, there's some reasons for that, right?
So, yeah, so my high school years, I struggled and I did kind of start hanging out um, with the wrong crowd. And I got in trouble legally.
Really? The district attorney's daughter got in trouble.
I did.
I bet that was great at dinner time.
Well, and it was for shoplifting.
Yeah.
And it was, just for me, and I'm hoping other people can relate to this. When you feel like when you've come from poverty and living without, and and you've had to use survival skills. You forget that you don't have to use those survival skills
Right.
later. Uh,
Right.
but for me, it was just, I didn't fit in, and I felt like I was living without, and so that's why, I did it because I wanted to fit in. And so I had that on my record.
Yeah, and you weren't really good at it because you got caught, right?
Yeah, it was horrible, horrible. Um, and then when and you're gonna totally chuckle about this. Um, so when I was 18, I skipped work. I worked at a marina, and it was 4th of July. It was like the busiest weekend it could ever have. And I skipped and I went with a group of people to a cove. And it was where everybody, like boats would just,
Right. Right. Yeah.
um, I decided to jump off of a boat naked.
Perfect. All right. So wait, let me get the background of this. We've got the district attorney's daughter got picked up from shoplifting, and then she broke away from work on the busiest day at a marina, and then did you get caught jumping in the water naked?
Did. Um, so everybody's doing it.
Of course, that's a great excuse. Everyone's doing it, Victoria.
And next thing I know, the patrol boat pulls up with a bullhorn. Miss Denny, does your dad know you're out here?
Right, right.
And at the time, he was campaigning for district judge.
Fantastic. So now he's trying to be judge, and the daughters, the easily identifiable Vietnamese daughters, jumping off the boat after going away from work on the busiest day of the year, and you get busted by the bullhorn. I know that it's you. And That I'm sure that that was a proud moment.
It was, well, the fact that the chief of police had to come pick me up because my dad was campaigning at the time, took me home. And yeah, so
So did your mom or your dad give you the first talking to about that?
my parents were very religious. And so it was a sit down with the Bible at the dining room table.
So the nudity was a sacrilege as well as
It was just me causing problems.
it can't be the only person in Oklahoma that's ever gone skinny dipping.
Right. But if you spoke with my
And which faith was this? Which that were you raised in?
Methodist,
Methodist. Okay.
um, Methodist and Baptist, so we had a little bit of both there.
Okay.
So my parents were very disappointed, as you could
Right.
imagine. And so I was charged with indecent,
Oh, really?
yeah, outraging public decency. That's what it was. Outraging public decency.
Did anybody else get charged, or was it just the little Vietnamese girl?
I have no idea,
It
but
didn't matter to you. You were in the
but the charges were dropped, Rick, because they couldn't find anyone that was outraged.
very nice. No one was outraged. All right. Well, that worked out well. Um,
It did. But after that, my parents said we can't we can't do this anymore, and so they kicked me out.
kicked you out of the house.
Yeah.
You were 18,
I was, yeah.
and they said
And
you need to.
I went to I also forgot to say that I went to a community college.
So you were already in college by this time, or getting ready to go.
Well, so this is a part that I forgot to mention, which kind of escalated some of my poor decisions. I went to a community college that was about 45 minutes away, um, and having been grew up in a household that my there was a I was very sheltered. Um, and so as you can guess, like, my freshman year, I was just like,
Right. Right. I mean, that's the same story for a lot of college freshmen.
yeah. Right before Christmas break, um, I had gone to a study group off campus and was drugged and gang raped. Um,
You're you're kidding me.
I totally remember it. I just was like, and and I just knew, like, I never said anything to my parents because I didn't. I mean, my dad was, assistant district attorney. Like,
So you never reported it.
never reported it.
So and this is your freshman year that this all happens.
Yeah.
So you go from being 4 years old, dragged away from your mother, sent across the world to the United States, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with an abusive father. Eventually, he um,
Commit suicide.
commits suicide. But did he murder someone first before he?
He shot his girlfriend, but she actually
She
survived.
survived. Okay, so then he committed suicide. You get adopted by your kindergarten teacher. You ask them for brothers and sisters, and they give you one of each. And then you go into high school and you rebel, just like a lot of high school kids. And suddenly, you're a freshman in college, and you're um, given Rohypnol or something,
Something.
that date rape drug, and you remember it all.
I did.
And during this time in your life, did you have an optimistic view of life? I mean, or did you think that life was shit because you had a lot of really crummy things along the way for just a young 18-year-old girl? What was your attitude about how life was?
Well, I mean, I will admit now, um, that all of those deer that I told my parents jumped in front of my car, like, you know,
Wow.
that was not the, no.
So after the incident in college, did you at least seek therapy, or did you just hold it all in?
I just held it all in.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what, I mean, um, my parents had sent me to therapy, um, for all of my childhood abuse.
Right.
Um, and, it just,
Was that helpful?
yes and no. Um, there's more to that. I answer it that way because, I have to be a little bit careful about.
No, I understand, but so since you've gone through therapy as a child and this happened to you as a young adult, 18, you had a background of understanding what they try to do in therapy and get you to and so you're pretty much trying to self-heal from that.
Well, I'm in my mind, I'm trying to, the best way to answer your question is the people who were supposed to protect me did not protect me.
Okay.
People that, um,
I I just you know, I just can't wait to hear how you got to be how you are. I mean, because literally you are um you've been inspirational to me, and you have so far your path has been just as about as bumpy as it could possibly be. So now we're 18, we've recovered from this. Do we stay in community college? You drop out?
I dropped out.
All right.
I moved to um, I moved to Tulsa,
Big city.
big
Fair.
city. Really wanted to, thinking that that would help me. Um, went through several things while I was there that wasn't positive. Um, yeah, more um, incidences and poor choices. Um, and then when I was 21, I loaded up my car and just I left everything. I didn't even take my car. I hitchhiked to Dallas.
Just wanted a change of a restart.
Wanted to get away. Yeah. So I was in Dallas for what was it, maybe 6 months, and then I picked my husband up in a bar.
And did you have a good first line or something? Um, I want you, or what did you say to old Jim?
It was just, I mean, we actually just started talking.
Well, you guys have you have a great banter and a great chemistry even today, and you've been married for I guess 24 years or something.
It's in April. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Um,
So you picked him up, you went and you said, "Hey, cowboy, I'm the girl for you." And he said, "Okay, I'm good with that."
yeah, pretty much.
And were you guys together immediately after that for the duration, or was there a courtship?
We met in October of 99. I moved in. Um, I he I moved to Austin that October.
All right, so it's moving pretty fast at this point.
Yeah.
Love is in the air.
It surely was.
And then how long after that did you get married?
We got married in April of 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we're getting to the good part. This is a positive part.
This is
Wait, is it not? Is life is looking a little bit better for you right now?
life. Yes. Um, and we in 2002 we had our daughter Quinn. Um, she was our first, and was just, I mean,
Had you always hoped to have children?
the funny thing, Rick, is that I never imagined that I was going to get married. I thought that I was going to work in a library and in a one room efficiency with cats.
And live a life of solitude.
Yes.
Did that you thought that because that appealed to you, or you thought that because you thought you weren't going to catch a break and have anything different than that?
No, that's what I wanted.
Yeah, it appealed to you.
Yeah.
That idea of solitude. I mean, you'd had a rough and rocky road up until then, and then suddenly you hook up with Jim, and that changes the perspective on things, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of a, um, well, and also, in my mind, I'd always felt so undesirable that the thought that someone would actually want to marry me.
Was surprising. Okay, well, Jim is a great guy, and he obviously saw what an amazing person you were, and now it's a good time. And you've just had Quinn,
21-year-old body is what, like, really
right?
hooked him.
Well, that's I'm sure that happens to a lot of us. We're flawed with that. So so you have Quinn,
Yeah, Quinn.
and um, and I've met her, and she's charming. She does sound like a little mini me of you, though. Her voice, the way she expresses herself, and um, then you and Quinn is 22 now. Yeah. Okay. So then we go, and you have Nate, and that's what's that? 3 years later? Is it 3 years between them?
2 years later,
2 years.
born August of 2004, and he they both were so different. Quinn was the observer. Like, she would be the one, like, sitting back and just watching. And she's hilarious because she, like, remembers, and she's witty, she's funny, and she's quick. And Nate he was such the perfect baby. Like, he was so sensitive. Like, um, you could tell that he was different, um, because he could register what people were feeling. And the downside of that was he would take that on.
Even as a young child.
Even I mean, I remember taking him to a birthday party, and Quinn wasn't invited. She didn't go. Um, and he brought back, I remember him pulling out a napkin with, like, cookie crumbs because he had brought her back a cookie from the birthday party. But it was just, he
Huh.
wanted his sister, you know, to have something. Um, And he was an absolute giver. And over this past year and a half, I've heard so many stories validating what a giver he was.
So this is a good time in your life. You've got two young children. You've got one that's real inquisitive, one that's super sensitive. And was this,
He
yeah,
was
did
a mama's boy.
did you at this time of your life were you just trying to get through the days because that's what you do with kids, or did you realize, did you have gratitude for where you were from then versus where you came from, kind of?
Um, I mean,
I mean, it's a significantly different set of circumstances.
I when I had when we decided to have kids, I knew what kind of mom I wanted to be. And um and I did my best to um create the relationship that I wanted with my kids.
So you knew what you wanted to be with them, and you also knew what you didn't want to be with them.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So I nurtured our relationship, and now I'm getting to benefit from, you know, the choices that I made.
Right.
You know, and I've had so much fun. Um, so I'm going back to Nate. He started having a hard time with depression when he was about he said in the third grade. Uh,
How could you see that?
well, I didn't see it then. I just always felt like he was so. I got a phone call from I guess it was his fourth grade teacher, and she's just sweet as pie. And I knew something was up when she called me. And apparently, Nate had pinched one of his classmates really hard, and it was hard enough to draw blood, which
Well,
she had to call me. And um, so I got her story and I got Nate's story. And so apparently, when I asked Nate about it, he said, "Oh, mommy, she was pulling leaves off of this bush." And I asked her to stop, and she wouldn't stop. And I asked her nicely, like several times. I said, "Please stop. You're hurting the bush, and the bush can't defend itself." And so the girl grabbed a handful of the leaves and pulled them off after he said that. And so he pinched her and said, "That's how the bush feels." And
this is as a third grader. He's teaching her a lesson.
I don't condone violence, but I mean, he did ask her several times nicely. Um, but that story gives you some insight into how he valued living,
Right. And defending the defenseless.
defending the defenseless. And he did
Right.
that was his whole life, was defending the defenseless.
Okay. And he's in third grade now. You get called to school. You
Yeah.
tell him, Nate, you can't pinch girls and draw blood. And he says, sorry, but she deserved it. She was hurting the tree or bush. Okay. So it, um, it continues on, and he continues to display this kind of selflessness towards people that are hurting.
People that are hurting, plants, animals. He had, some snapping turtles at Town Lake that he'd go visit, and they'd let him pet them. Um,
The turtles would let them.
mhm. And and he would rescue birds, and um,
He was a sensitive soul.
he was a sensitive soul, and he was the broken, the hurting, the struggling people were just drawn to him. And with people like Nate, he doesn't just feel it, he takes it on. And I remember, I guess he was in his seventh grade year. Um, there was a girl at school that got pregnant, and she shared that with him. And I remember him coming home, just, like I could just see the wheels turning. And he asked me, he was like, Mommy, what are your thoughts on abortion? I was like,
He's in seventh grade.
this is seventh grade. And luckily, I was smart enough to turn the question around. And I was like, "Nate, what do you think about abortion? How do you
Right.
feel about abortion?" And, he gave me his perspective. And it was a good one. And I was like, okay, that's pretty deep for a seventh
Right. He
grader.
he'd clearly given it some thought.
Yes. And but he struggled because he would hear his friends with their struggles and he couldn't fix it. Nate was a fixer,
Right.
and it would devastate him if he couldn't fix it. And I remember him just saying, Mommy, I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
And this was even when he was in seventh grade.
This is when he was in seventh grade.
Okay.
I mean, this is something that he would share, like I just, um, knowing all of this stuff and just having it eat away at him and not being able to fix it. But he was able to, I found out that he was feeding like most of the most of his classmates. I was like, what's happening to all of your food? And it was because, if his
He
friends,
felt like they needed it, and he gave it to them.
he would go without. Um,
These were classmates that were in need, or just extra hungry growing kids.
Probably both.
Yeah.
Probably both. Um, so when he was in seventh grade, um, we had to put him in a hospital because he just lost it. Um, and we did our best, uh, to help him with his depression and anxiety.
Was it just like mental exhaustion, or how did it display?
Uh, Trying to hurt himself.
Okay.
Um, and he just didn't, I mean, he would talk to me like I knew how he was struggling. Um, and I remember after him getting out of the hospital, I was like, what can I do? Like, how can I fix this?
Right. Right.
Mom, you
Sure.
want to fix it. And he said, Mommy, there's nothing that you can do. You can't fix it. And as a mom, that's a fucking hard thing to hear.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what else are you supposed to do as a mother but help your children?
So he's you know he's a little bit of an empath in taking other people's problems. I assume that he has some things that he's able to fix. Does he get any joy from that? Does he?
So he discovered street art and wheat pasting and sticker slapping and, graffiti. And he started connecting with local street artists, um, and would get together with them, a couple of times a week. And they would all sit, doodle, and draw. And turns out, there's this huge sticker community, like crazy. There's a new movie out called The Sticker Movie, and it's a documentary on sticker slapping and this worldwide phenomenon of, this is how street artists and um,
Yeah, I'm not. You said that to me the other day, and the whole sticker slapping I'd never even heard of. But I'm not very hip, obviously. So that's a big thing.
it's a huge thing. It's huge. And so now when you go travel, you're going to be more aware of these stickers.
Oh, I am. I am. Yeah.
I mean, and it's pretty amazing. Like, so there's people trade, they do sticker trades. And I discovered that Nate had been trading stickers with artists from all over the world.
Really.
They would send each other sticker packets. And so he'd go to the mailbox and he'd have a package of
So he's a high school kid at this point, right? And he's suddenly into street art, which in general, the street art community is, um, in most situations, that's not a legal activity that they're doing, right?
no, no.
They just have to do it under the sly and where nobody else can see them, and then they duck out, and it's fairly territorial, right?
Territorial and pretty lonely.
Yeah, and so you say that he's brought some of these street artists together and they would doodle. Wouldn't that be a rare thing for them to do, to actually get together and hang out?
Yes.
That'd be a common thing you'd think for high school kids to do, but not for street artists that are, you know, by definition of what they do, they have to be a little bit of a loner.
Right. Right. And a lot of them did have kind of some conflict with each other. Um, but Nate had this, like, he was like, this is going to happen. And, and so he had struggled to find his people.
Right.
He was an old soul. Like, he listened to music from the 1920s. Yes, like his music was 1920s, but then, he also liked the Beastie Boys. Just everything in between. Um, and so I was just really, that was part of my joy, was when he found this group of artists, because they would inspire each other. And it was just like it was a community.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's establishing community where community really didn't exist before.
Yes.
And it's all just because of this little high school kid. I assume that a lot of the other community is not high school kids.
No, we after meeting them, we discovered that these are 40 and 60-year-old.
Right.
Some are married with kids, and some are single, but either way, it was kind of comical. Here's Nate, 18-year-old kid.
And he's the one bringing them together.
He's the one
Uh,
bringing them together.
okay.
Um,
So we're happy that we're happy at this point that he feels a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he was so passionate about it. Um, and then our life was turned upside down when we came home on July 31st of 2023. Nate had taken his own life. And that day, out of everything that I have experienced, Rick, it was the most terrible day of my life.
Well, I think that that would go without saying. I mean, you'd had some tough things happen in your life, but this is one that it's hard to ever expect, and when something like that happens, um, it's just got to be a heart stopper.
It is. Because it's like, how do you go on? And Nate was my person. Like, Nate and I were so close. Um, like we talked about everything. Like our relationship was very different than most moms and sons. We spent a lot of time together. Um, he was he was my little bestie.
You related based on your history. You were able to relate with him, and so this awful thing happens, and then you've got the question of how do I go forward?
How do I go forward? And this is where, and I mean, this, you know, some people who have lost their children um, will think that I'm, might question me as a mother, but I, I was, I knew Nate, and I didn't, I didn't take his death personally. Um, and I chose to believe that he had fulfilled his purpose in life. And now he gets to move on to
The next step.
the next step. And I feel like he's able to help. And I've had our friends and his friends validate this, that he is able to do more where he is now than he ever was able to do while he was here.
Okay, so that's a hopeful idea of a tragic circumstance, and you know one of the reasons we wanted to have this conversation is there's a lot of people that are um, have had tragic, not exactly the same, but tragic loss, and the question is how to move forward. So I assume that right after this that you were frozen for a moment.
We were frozen. We were frozen. But we have the most amazing group of friends. And what's interesting is the people who we thought were going to be here to help us through this
Right.
lot have disappeared. And the people that I least expected to show up have been the ones that have just been my backbone.
Why do you think that is?
You know, I don't, maybe they don't know how to, maybe they don't know what to say to us. Perhaps they don't know. Um, I don't know. I don't know, other than they don't know what to say, or it's just too painful for them to be around us.
Right. But regardless, it surprised you how it played out. However, you did have a core group of people that were there for you
Well, so
and continue to be.
yes, and so Nate's street art buddies, I get together with them. Well, I mean, during the holidays, it's been difficult, but 3 times a month, like every week, we try to get together and we just hang out and we talk and we drink and we eat. And it's just,
Now, you didn't do that before,
no.
and you almost took the place of Nate. I mean, he was the one that joined the community, and now suddenly, because of him and because of the circumstance, you felt there was a need for you to step into that to, and I assume that it gives you comfort as well.
I mean, for it does bring me comfort, but it also, like, I want, I don't know how to say this. These are a group of guys that have never asked anything of us.
Right.
They have given and given and given, expecting nothing in return. They're the ones that text me, checking in on me, calling me, um, and being around people who love Nate helps me heal because they are reminders of his love.
Right. Now, it's been about a year and a half, and what's different today than it obviously you were frozen then. Um, there's a big difference in how you are, I mean, pursuing happiness today than obviously you couldn't at that time, but you are now because I see it in you every time I see you.
Well, he would be horrified if I stayed in bed in my pajamas in a fetal position, which is what ultimately I would want to do.
Right.
That would be my choice. But he would not want that. And so my my job now is to pull myself out of bed, try to figure out what I can do to better myself, um, to help others around me. So now it's what is my purpose?
Right.
And that is my goal right now is discovering what my new purpose is, and
Right.
um, and how I can continue to honor him.
So what do you hope can happen from here forward? I mean, you've had a really nice thing happen to you recently. Your daughter graduated from college. Congratulations on that.
She did.
Um, but what do you hope for the future for your for you and your family?
Well, we have we've helped one of Nate's buddies create a nonprofit, and it's Something Good Initiative.
Something Good initiative.
Something Good Initiative, and it is there are several projects under this umbrella, and one is helping artists with like a residency. So there's an art studio that has space, and every 6 months we interview artists, and they get to have a 6 month residency where um, they get to be with other artists, and there's like a mentorship. They get to all help each other, and then there's also the alleyway project, which is where volunteers and artists go out and clean up alleyways and add lighting, and then local artists get to go do murals. So it's just kind of a beautifying project.
All right, so the residency program, is it room and board, or is it just a place to meet for them for that period of time?
It's just a place for them. It's just this room where they get to, bring their stuff and
Work with other artists to try to so it's you know street art has it's kind of out there for somebody like me. I'm not really familiar with all the aspects of it. I see things in the news, and you see things that are amazing that you like. Obviously, a lot of streetscapes in towns now. It's moving past just tagging to full murals, and where it's supported by the community. And so, what you're doing by this is making um, uh, some art that was outlaw art more to mainstream, it seems like,
yes.
and giving people opportunity to grow in that if that's their choice, right?
Yeah.
Um, well, that's and what's it called again?
Something Good Initiative.
Something Good initiative. And it's a not for profit. Are you raising funds for it?
Yes.
And how would someone get in touch with you if they wanted to do that?
Um, I think we will be able to add a link to their website when this is all said and done.
Okay. So what we'll do at the end of this is post um post your link and how to get in touch with it, and
Or they can go to the website,
well, it'll give the website. What is the website name?
somethinggoodinitiative.org.
Somethinggoodinitiative.org. And this is it's based in Austin, Texas, correct? And is this exclusively just for Austin, or you do you hope to advance this to other cities?
That I think would be an ultimate goal. But right now, we would just be in Austin.
Okay. Um, so you're doing well.
Well, as I'm sitting here talking to you, Rick, so the week that Nate passed, two crocheted hearts appeared on our crepe myrtles. And every week since he's been gone, a new heart appears. And I'm looking at our crepe myrtles right now. It's kind of cloudy outside, and I just see all of these hearts. Each one is a different color. We have no idea who's putting them up or where they're coming from. And we have security cameras pointed to the trees, and we have never been able to catch anybody. But I'm looking outside and I see a new heart. So that
Wow. So, is that the tricky street artist being able to get things done and not being able to see the outlaws? They can get things done and bypass cameras, or we don't know how it happens.
don't have any idea how it's happening. But
So, if you were able to give some advice to anyone that has experienced some of the tragedies that you have, what would you say to them?
mm,
I know that's a hard question.
gosh, Rick, that's so tough. It's so tough because I don't every every loss is so different because everyone's relationship with their loved one is different.
Right.
And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to handle loss and grief. And I don't feel like it's my place to tell someone how they should move forward. All I know is that for me, I'm doing what Nate would want me to do. And I'm doing what I feel like I need to do to honor him. Um, I mean, I've had a lot of unsolicited things not to say. And this is just for a good chuckle. I know how you feel because I lost my dog.
Someone said that to you.
Someone said that to me because it was their fur baby.
Wow.
Um,
How do you respond to that? Thank you.
just my facial expressions usually speak volumes. Um, and then the other one was you know, most marriages don't survive something like
Oh, that's hopeful.
this. And this looks like it's going to be your new norm, like
Uh,
normal life. And yeah, I mean,
that's that's kind of bizarre. So what would you say if you saw somebody and you wanted to show empathy or understanding? What would you say to them? What's the most meaningful thing anyone said to you?
we love you. We love Nate. We are here regardless. Meaning,
Yeah, no, that says a lot.
like, because I tend to push people away and for them to just continue showing up. I may not answer my phone, I may not answer my text messages or my emails, but they have been persistent and they don't take it personally.
So through everything that you've gone through, which has been a lot, uh, a hell of a story, by the way. Um, you can make a movie out of it. The what's allowed you to continue to push forward with optimism about life? What's in you that's allowed you to do that? Because you've accomplished that, and you're accomplishing it now under really, once again, very tough circumstances. But you've repeatedly had tough circumstances.
Well, I have my husband and I have my daughter. I I have to continue um, moving forward for them because it's not fair for them to fall through the cracks because of my loss.
So we've covered an awful lot of ground here, and um, the thing that I guess the overwhelming thing that I take from this is that it's about establishing community, and that's your purpose going forward with your not-for-profit now, and the stuff that Nate was doing previously. He was establishing community, and you're carrying on that philosophy, and that's a great sense of purpose. And one of the real significant secrets to a happy life is relationship. And I want to thank you for having a relationship with me, because it has added something in my life.
We are honored to have you as a friend, Rick. You have.
Well, this is only the beginning, and we'll continue forward. I promised I wouldn't take every bit of your day, but thank you so much for sharing. And I think that there's a lot of people that will be listening to this that will identify with the things that you've gone through, and the fact of that you continue to take steps forward, um, and you continue to have relationship, and you continue to build community, and those are pretty good secrets to a happy life.
I agree.
All right, thank you so much, Victoria, and we will talk to you soon. Um, you have been very, very gracious, and once again, you inspire me.
Thank you, Rick.
All right.
Hey, thanks for listening. Please go to secrettoahappylife.com to comment or nominate a guest that you think has a great story about their pursuit of happiness. Download other episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And remember, grace, hope, and forgiveness. Happiness is a choice.